Hi everybody, I'm Michael. This is Eli, and the man known as B. That's his nickname because his name's long. And we're going over chapter 1 in your book, which I hope you all have read, right? So just a quick intro about what we're going to talk about. The 5 important things in chapter 1 is going to be first, how do you aim? And now aim is introduced in chapter 1 and chapter 2 and chapter 3 go over the second two parts of it. But we'll still talk about the introduction of it. We'll talk about, we'll talk about the primary and secondary audiences and what does your audience know, figuring that out. And Eli is going to talk about what's in it for me, and what your credibility matters, and he's going to do the quiz for us. So, how do you aim? AIM stands for analyze the audience, identify your intent, and make the most of your messages. Well, this chapter is really the intro to this entire book and what it matters. Why should you read it? Well, how does it affect your presentations? How does it make your presentations better? And really, you have to remember that when you're making a presentation, it's all up to you. You have to keep the audience engaged. You have to keep them interested. You have to get your message across. If you don't make the presentation good enough that your audience, they get bored, they start looking at their phones, they're on their laptops the entire time. Some of that can be the audience's fault, obviously, but for the most part, it's going to be your fault if everything doesn't get across. So, one of the best ways to basically figure out how to do this is this framework called AIM, where you tailor it to your audience about exactly what you're going to talk about and how you're going to deliver it to them in a way that they're going to be interested and engaged in. Now, this first analyze the audience, that's what this chapter is actually about. But it's such an important thing that's introduced in this chapter. I wanted to highlight it as the first thing in our presentation because it sets the framework for the rest of the chapters. The next is going to be, analyzing the audience basically means that you look at what your audience is composed of, who's in it, what do they think, what kind of biases do they have, what do they bring to the table, and how can you talk to them in a way that they'll begin to understand what your message is, why they should listen to your message at all, and how you're going to get them to do that. The next, which is going to be chapter 2, is just identifying your intent. What do you want to get out of this presentation, and what do you want your audience to get out of this presentation? Are you trying to sell them something? Are you trying to get them to sign off on this project? Are you trying to get them to try this new diet or buy your product or whatever you're going to do? You need to figure out what exactly that is so you can make the audience do that. And then finally, making the most of your message, which is kind of similar to identifying your intent, but this is actually fleshing out how the audience benefits, how you can bring it to them, and how you can put everything actually together. Because the whole point of AIM is that you're not going to start your presentation by thinking, oh, let me go make some slides, let me put everything together, maybe think about what I'm going to talk about. You actually want to start by, just thinking first. Kind of like pre-writing in any writing assignment. It's a lot better to do your pre-writing than it is to think about for maybe an hour and then spend like another hour writing than it is to spend 2 hours writing just by itself. And that is what using AIM does, and that's what it brings to your presentation. It helps you make it more engaging, keeps people listening and interested, and ultimately makes your presentations better. Now I'm going to hand off to Eli, who's going to be talking about, or B, excuse me. He's going to be talking about primary and secondary audiences.
All right. If you're going to present, if you're going to talk in front of people, definitely you're going to need an audience. And then the text, the chapter talks about the two primary audience that you need to know about. There's the primary audience, those are the people going to be in attendance. And then the secondary audience, those are the people going to hear about your presentation. Let's say if you're making a presentation to people and you're going to post it on your website. So those people are going to be in attendance, are going to be the primary audience. And then those people are going to read about your presentation in your website. Those are going to be secondary audience. On the primary audience, they're going to be two, which sometimes they can be unknown, and sometimes they can be familiar audience where like the people, familiar audience, those are the people you know about. The tricky ones are going to be the unknown audience because you don't know what to expect from them. You don't know what to expect, and it's really hard on what you can talk. But the first thing on dealing with that, you need to get somebody inside the organization who can help you out to gather few information about it. And then the second part as well, correct, you need to collect data on how many people are going to attend, because you don't want to walk into a room when you don't know how many people are going to attend. If you do a presentation, you'll be preparing yourself that you're going to talk to like 20 people, and you walk into that room, 150 people in attendance, that's going to wow you. No matter how good you are in public speaking, but at least you're going to be surprised and names will come up. As well, the other thing that you need to do on the audience, if it's a large group, let's say if you're presenting to a company, you can divide those groups into smaller groups. In terms of if it's a sales department, you can divide that into a sales, and then the marketing, and then the customer service, you do that together. The familiar audience, that's going to be the ones now you familiar with your audience. You've talked to them before, and you know what they expect. So the thing is, with those audience, you might at least have an idea on their likes and dislikes. So at least those, that's going to help you out in the presentation. On this, so talking about breaking into groups, secondary. Now, what your audience know. On what your audience know, this is where now you've gathered all your information, you know about your audience. Now it's like, what exactly do they know? And if you're talking to a group of mixed background, so on the mixed background, you get people, like if you're presenting to a company, you get, maybe you just have new recruits, the interns, and you're talking to people who are expert in that subject. So the thing is, on the expert, you can keep those people involved by talking to them on what you're going to talk about, and keep them engaged in your presentation. Connect as well with the beginners, and just like if there's something in each and every subject, there's some jargon which goes along, there's some words which you use and those people are not familiar with. Try and focus on the things that make the beginners look like, oh, what is this guy talking about? You should be able to read about that. And on the expectations, on the expectation, just know what they want about. So you're gonna do visual presentations, and then on the visual presentation, you can do pictures, you can do what you do on PowerPoints, or you can do nothing at all. That's part of the visual presentation. And you can ask questions at the end of it all, keep the people involved. And the timing, at least you should be able to time yourself on how long you're gonna talk, because you don't want to bore the audience by talking forever. At least you should be able to know now how long you're gonna talk. Now I'll pass it to Eli, who's gonna talk about what is it in me and the credibility of an audience, and then after that we'll do the quiz.
Hi, what is in it for me? I'm sure we all have asked ourselves this question before, and a good way to answer this question is by actually creating a benefit statement. And to create a benefit statement, you would use these 3 steps, which the 3 bullets after the first one, which is identify the features, you apply an audience filter, and you create a benefit statement. The first step is actually going to deal with the values that, or what values does the message bring. And by doing this, this will not only allow you to understand what's in it for you, but also for your audience. And the second step is applying audience filter, which you want to know what your audience likes, because there's always different groups that do not like the same thing. So you always want to make your homework and make sure that you account for every group that you're presenting to. The last step, which is creating the benefit statement, that's actually going to be stating the needs and the features, or the needs and the desires for the audience. And it's going to point out useful features that are for those groups that you're presenting to. Your credibility. When you're performing or giving a presentation, your credibility is actually based on the audience perception that they have on you. You always want to think about your credibility, and a good idea is to write down any questions that you might have about credibility, about what your audience might think about you, or how they might describe you, which that would help you. And two of the credibility are the competence and the character. And I want to talk about two small examples about each, which the competence deals with more people are going to be able to like or agree with your opinions that you have. And for example, with authority, if let's say you're a CEO or a president or a director of an organization, they're actually going to like you because they see that you have power over them. And expertise is actually similar to authority, which that's actually linked to, let's say, degrees or let's say any accomplishments that you might have or experience. And if you have those and your audience doesn't, some of your audience doesn't, they actually look up to you and agree to what you have to present to them. With character, with character credibility, they either, if they know you or like you, they're more likely to say yes or agree to what you are presenting to them. And let's say with good news, if you're presenting good news, of course the audience is actually going to pay attention to you. They're more likely to not be bored and stuff because it's good news to them. And even if you compliment them, they're actually going to like that. And believe it or not, but attractiveness is actually one of the something that is, it's actually okay. Deals with credibility. A lot of the people actually link attractive images to like or likable things. So it's always important whenever you're presenting to an audience to either dress properly, even on that day that you're presenting. Because if someone wasn't actually taking, let's say, a serious job about it, then they wouldn't be really able to like you. Or let's just say that they don't care what you're doing up because they just see that you don't care either. And that's it. And the following slides are quizzes.
Would one of you, for the video, read the quiz questions? Not the answers, just the quiz questions, and then I'll turn off the camera. Go ahead.
All right, the first three questions are fill in the blank. And the first one is, what does the A stand for in the ABCs of the presentation? The second one is, how do you answer the question and what is in it for you? The third one, name one example of a visual aid your audience may expect.
Now, guys, for the sake of the video, I'm just going to have them do the next two questions, but we'll come back to these, so don't worry, you don't have to remember them. So just read the question 4 and 5 ELA, if you will, too.
Yeah. These are the short answer questions that we have. The first one is, what is the difference between the primary and secondary audience? The second one is, what kind of questions would you ask yourself when determining your credibility? Give at least 2, and there's very a variety of questions, so